Single dad janitor took down 4 men with a mop. The CEO froze when she learned who he really was. It was well past midnight when the city lights outside shimmered through the rain-soaked windows of the towering glass building. Inside, the vast marble lobby of the corporation stood empty and silent, except for the faint echo of a mop gliding across the floor. A man in a faded blue janitor uniform worked quietly, his movements steady and deliberate. His name was Ethan Cole, a name no one in the company cared to remember. To them, he was just the night janitor, a man invisible in plain sight. But that night, everything would change. That night, the world would see the fire hidden behind those weary eyes. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of unseen heroes, then pause for a moment, hit that like button, share this story, and subscribe to KindnessTales. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a story of struggle, it's a story of redemption, courage, and the incredible strength of a father's love. Ethan Cole had once worn a different uniform, not blue with patches and worn-out boots, but black tactical gear, heavy with medals and honor. Years ago, he had served his country as a decorated soldier, leading men into missions few survived. But wars don't end on battlefields, sometimes, they follow you home. When his wife, Claire, fell ill and passed away suddenly, Ethan was left with a 5-year-old daughter, Lily, and a heart full of scars that no medal could heal. The army couldn't wait for a grieving father, so Ethan left his career behind. With no family left and bills piling up, he took the only job he could find, a janitor's position at the grand corporate tower of Hamilton Industries. Each night, while others slept, Ethan worked in silence. He swept the same floors where billionaires walked, mopped hallways lined with portraits of men and women who had everything, and polished glass doors that reflected the life he once dreamed of giving his daughter. Every shift, he thought of Lily, her laughter, her innocent drawings, and her quiet strength. He wanted her to know that no job was too small, that dignity lived in effort, not status. Yet deep inside, he carried a pain no one could see, the pain of a father who once led soldiers but now swept up after strangers. The employees barely noticed him. They walked past, chatting about stock prices, bonuses, and weekend getaways. But there was one person who occasionally offered a smile, Emma Hamilton, the young CEO of the company. Elegant, composed, and respected by all, Emma carried herself with quiet authority. She had built her father's company into an empire. Yet despite her success, she was lonely, isolated by power and responsibility. She had seen Ethan only a handful of times, usually late at night, and always offered him a polite nod. She never guessed that behind that tired face was a man who once commanded respect from generals. One stormy night, as thunder rolled across the sky, Ethan's world shifted. He had stayed late to finish cleaning the upper floors when he heard muffled voices coming from the parking garage. Curiosity turned to concern when he recognized Emma's voice, strained and frightened. He hurried toward the sound, his heart pounding. There, in the dim light of the underground lot, 4 men surrounded Emma near her car. Their intentions were clear, they weren't robbers, they were there for something darker. Emma was cornered, trembling, clutching her handbag like a shield. Ethan didn't think twice. He grabbed the only thing he had, his mop. The men laughed when they saw him approach, a janitor, thin and weary, with gray beginning to streak his hair. But Ethan's eyes were steady, cold, unflinching. What happened next unfolded like a storm. In a blur of movement, he blocked a punch, swung the mop handle with military precision, and dropped the first man to the floor. The second charged, but Ethan disarmed him in a single move, twisting his wrist until the man screamed. The others hesitated, realizing too late that this was no ordinary janitor. Within moments, the fight was over. 4 men groaned on the ground, defeated by a man who hadn't fought in years. Emma stood frozen, her breath shallow, her mind struggling to comprehend what she had just witnessed. The janitor, quiet, invisible Ethan, had just saved her life with nothing but a mop. Rain poured from the open entrance as Ethan helped her to her feet, asking if she was hurt. His voice was calm, low, filled with quiet authority. She nodded, speechless. When the police arrived minutes later, Ethan disappeared into the background again, refusing credit. By morning, the story had spread through the building like wildfire. Employees whispered about the janitor who fought off attackers, and Emma couldn't shake the image from her mind, the way he moved, the precision, the discipline. The next day, she called him to her office. The man who entered looked nothing like the hero she remembered from the night before, just a tired worker, shoulders slumped, eyes weary. But as she looked closer, she saw something, a depth of pain, of strength, of history. When she asked who he really was, Ethan hesitated, then quietly revealed his past: former special forces, honorably discharged, a widowed father raising a daughter alone. Emma sat in silence, her heart heavy with realization. This man, overlooked and underestimated by everyone, had once sacrificed everything for his country, and now worked nights just to feed his little girl. Emma felt something shift inside her. She saw her company differently, saw how many people like Ethan worked in silence, unseen, carrying stories the world never cared to know. That day, she made a decision that would change both their lives. She promoted Ethan, not out of pity, but because she saw leadership, integrity, and courage in him. She offered him a position in corporate security, where his skills and experience could shine. Ethan resisted at first. He was humble, unsure if he belonged in that world anymore. But Emma insisted, telling him that heroes like him didn't belong in the shadows. Weeks turned into months, and Ethan flourished. His calm discipline and quiet strength transformed the team. He trained younger guards, inspired respect, and carried himself with humility. Meanwhile, his daughter Lily grew up seeing her father not just as a janitor, but as a man who rose again, proof that life can take everything from you, but can never take your will to stand back up. As time passed, Emma and Ethan developed a deep friendship built on mutual respect. She often found herself confiding in him about the loneliness of leadership, and he, in turn, shared stories of his past, not of war, but of love, loss, and the lessons life had taught him. They both healed in their own way. For Ethan, it was about reclaiming his worth. For Emma, it was about rediscovering humanity in a world obsessed with power. One evening, during a company award ceremony, Emma stood on stage and spoke to hundreds of employees. Her voice trembled slightly as she told them the story of an unsung hero, a man who had once cleaned their floors but ended up cleaning the darkness out of their hearts. She pointed to Ethan, sitting quietly in the front row, and said, "True greatness doesn't come from titles or suits. It comes from courage, humility, and kindness." The crowd stood in applause, and for the first time in years, Ethan smiled, not the tired smile of a survivor, but the proud one of a man who finally knew his worth had never been lost. If this story touched your heart, if you believe that heroes walk among us in silence every day, please take a moment, like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to KindnessTales for more true stories that remind us of the power of compassion and courage. And before this story ends, tell us in the comments below, what does real strength mean to you?